All right, hey everyone. Today I've got Ben in Richmond, and he's completed the program. Actually, got hired on a really cool sales team. I really like the sales team he's a part of. I'll let him talk about that later, though. But Ben, to get started, everyone's wanting to know just who is Ben, what's his background. Tell us a little bit about you before we get into the details.
Hey everybody, I'm Ben from Richmond, Virginia. I'm just moved out here from Indianapolis. That's actually one of the reasons why I was looking for a career change. Before this, I was right out of school. I was in medical school for a couple of years and then decided that that was not the career path for me, and then spent about 5 years flipping homes in Indianapolis. And when I moved out here to kind of a rural location as opposed to the urban location in Indianapolis, the real estate market was completely different. And I kind of had this inkling that I wanted to get into the tech field in some capacity, whether that be as a developer or preferably not as a developer. I started looking for other options, and that's how I got in touch with Prehired.
Now, Ben, what made you decide to work with us? Because when you decided you wanted to change your career and do something different, you chose to do tech sales. And why specifically Prehired? What was going through your head when you found us?
Yeah, so I knew I had a couple months where I was going to be able to, I needed to make a career change. I wasn't an option to continue doing what I was doing in Indianapolis. And, but I had enough time to kind of think it through and make a decision about what the right choice was. And so I knew it was going to be in tech, just because of salary levels and lifestyle. Preferably, I was looking for a remote company, and because Richmond is a strong banking industry, but there's not a whole lot of tech companies here. And so I was trying to figure that out, and I was really thinking it was going to be in something in the engineering space, even though I didn't have any background. But I just knew I was going to end up hating my life if I was sitting in a terminal or a code editor all day. And so I was like, well, what's the next step? How do I get into the industry? I've been doing something else for 5 years, and I haven't really had a job with a boss. I've been my own boss for 5 years. So how do I bridge the gap? How do I get back into the workforce, where I can even qualify and get through the HR screens? So I was looking for something to put on my resume that would help me cross that bridge from being self-employed and moving into technology and getting in front of HR managers. So that's why when I didn't know that there were sales boot camps, and I actually found 2 of them. And you guys just had such higher levels of success rates and did not require folks to move to where you were located to spend some time doing the boot camp. It was all virtual online. It kind of made it a no-brainer for me to go with you guys.
Okay. So thanks for the thorough background, man. I think everyone's got a clear picture of where you were at, what you wanted. You saw it, where the best way to do that. And you got into the program. You started the curriculum. What was that like in the program, in Prehired, behind the closed curtain? You reveal the curtain, you see what's back there. What was it like going through the program for you?
Yeah, the content structure, well, the program's really 2 pieces. It's both content, which you need to absorb and learn, and preferably really quickly. But there's also this coaching and community component to it. And the content was a lot more volume than what I was expecting. So as soon as I opened up the portal, I was like, oh, this is going to take me a little bit longer than I thought it was going to. I was like, oh, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to crush it. I'm going to be out in a week and have a job. And it just became clear that I had a lot. I shouldn't say I had a lot, but I had a decent enough learning curve ahead of me that it ended up taking me about a month or so to get through the content portion. And then I kind of took it leisurely and took another month to get through what is the certification process, which includes the coaching with the folks like Andrew and Lael, and having them look at all my everything. They look at your resume, your videos that you've created, your interview practice, all that kind of stuff. It's right on point. It's exactly what the HR managers are looking for. So in terms of like content wise, it was like peering into the future a little bit about what you're going to be seeing. But it is the volume's there for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because it's funny. Some people, when we do their admissions interview and talk to them about what we're doing and whether or not they want to join Prehired and do this, a lot of people don't realize how much stuff there is, though, that they don't actually know related to tech sales. They think that, oh, I'm a really good communicator, I'm charismatic, I've done well maybe in another sales job, and they think that I'm just going to be able to just get my foot in the door, show me how to do my resume, and then I'm done. They're like, I'm going to nail this. And when we have our interview, we try to like explain to them, there's a lot that you probably need to get better at, or there's maybe even a good portion of stuff that you've never heard of. Like when we start talking about artificial intelligence for conversations and talking about these apps that analyze our phone calls and give you an input of like all the stuff that happened in the call, buzzwords, like objections that came up, just that's one element. I mean, there's just tools, skills, and workflows. And then like how to properly write emails and use social media like LinkedIn properly. People don't realize that there's a lot to go over, and most people do a few things really well already in the program, but then there's still a lot that they don't, that they need to get better at, that we touch on best practices. And then there's a little bit that they've never even heard of that blew them away. They're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this was even out there. And so that's what the admissions interview is normally for anyone listening, is to explain what to expect if you were to do this, and the results also of what you expect when you're done with the program. And so I love like talking with sales folks in those calls, because it's fun to see that they think it's one thing. And then we're like, no, that like resume, that, yeah, we cover resume, but that's like 1% of everything. Like it's really this, like ultimately. And so that's, some people don't realize that it's not really a resume issue. It's you proving beyond a shadow of a doubt, you're the best person to do the responsibilities and the tasks for this role out of all the other people that are applying. That's what it is. It has nothing to resume. Yeah, you're going to do a few things that do work better to get you past a few screening things. But yeah, what gets you the job is not tricking people into thinking and giving you a job you don't deserve, but actually getting you to where you're the best person that they could possibly hire that whole year for the job. Like that's where we want to get people. And so that's what some people miss. And I love, like, you're like, oh, I'm going to knock this out of the park. And then you realize, well, there's some stuff that I need to go over. Wow, there's a lot more meat in this pie than I thought. I thought it was like, there's a lot more there than most people think. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right. So you went through it. There was more there than you thought, but again, it was not difficult to do, right? You just took time.
Right. And you mentioned beyond a shadow of a doubt, and that's exactly what it is, because once I got into the interviewing process, I realized, yeah, I kind of know this stuff. At least I have head knowledge. I've seen it through the program, but I really need to know, I really need to be a quote unquote master of the tools and the workflow. Even though mastery is a continual process, you definitely need to know exactly what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, exactly, man. That's exactly what we do is you learn it, you watch it, you consume the content, and then you need to practice it until it becomes somewhat of a habit. And then we practice with you. So now, and you said you use this stuff in the interviews. Tell us about that, because getting knowledge for knowledge's sake without application is pretty much worthless. So what was it like using what you learned in the program to get jobs that you wanted? What were some of those results and numbers and things that you saw after using what you learned?
Yeah, so in about month 2, I was getting really antsy to get out there and start applying for jobs. So I hadn't actually gotten certified yet, which I don't recommend you do. But I had just finished up my resume, and I wanted to see if my resume, which had my photo on it, was going to make it through the applicant tracking system. So I picked my 9 favorite companies, and I said, I'm just going to apply to one just to see if I make it through their systems with a photo on my resume. And I applied to one company, which was Chile Piper. It was my number 1 company, and I thought I would get screened out right away. And I heard back from them within 4 hours, and they sent me a screener email then.
Wow. So that's really cool, man, because not everyone does what you do, which is literally, I chose my top company. I've got, I think, most of it there, and I'm going to send it. And then you literally, and which, by the way, for everyone that doesn't know Chile Piper, they're a really cool company that has a product that sells specifically to salespeople. So they help salespeople do their jobs better, which I'm going to let you explain that in a second, because I'm not going to give that away, Ben. I'll let you tell more about that. But that's the cool thing, is he joined a really great sales team. And he literally chose the number one company you wanted to work for. You contacted them. You went through, they invited you to the interview. The interviews went well. And then they walked me through what happened in the interview process. And then ultimately, because you ended up working there. So tell us what happened in that process.
Yeah, so this is where things kind of went awry, as you can imagine. They sent me the original screener interview, and that they have a very modern process where they want you to send a video back. And there's a couple of video trainings within the Prehired course. And so luckily I had already had that prepared and was able to send that back to them almost immediately. And that allowed me to get through the screening process. And the very next day I had my first initial interview with them, which looked a lot like, well, it was a practice cold calls and a few other sales things they wanted you to practice live. And at that point, I had also signed up for a sister companies of theirs just to meet the co-founder. And based on that interview, which I had the very next day, they thought that I had really great product insights. So this is going to surprise you, Josh. I didn't actually get hired to their sales team. Instead, they looked at the product insights I was able to offer on their tool and hired me onto the product team, specifically because I had this sales training as a background, because we're a tool that sells to salespeople.
Wow, that's really cool. So you got hired on as this product expert consultant to help them understand what they're doing, the competition, and because you've basically been trained on a whole bunch of tools that we have in our program. And so they saw you this weird wizard expert that knows more than what they do, most likely on these tools. So that's what they hired you in as. And now, but you're doing sales now, right? Or no, you're in the product team. What are you doing then?
I'm firmly on the product team. I should have prepped you for that. They told me, hey, we have this position open. We need a product manager. I said, a project manager. What's that? They said, no, a product manager. So you're going to be talking with stakeholders, which are our salespeople, our account executives. You're going to be figuring out what exactly they need from our tool. And then you're going to be the go-between between the engineering and the design teams and helping bring these ideas to life. So that's what I'm doing now for them.
Oh, dude, that's like a junior level sales enablement professional. Like, so this is really cool. I had no idea that you're going to bring this up. So they have the name is called growth or product. You're in the growth or product area. What you're actually describing is the early beginnings of what's called a sales enablement or sales operations role for larger sales teams. So whenever a sales team gets larger, they normally have a couple people. Like if you have 50 people in the sales team, you might have 2 people in what's called doing sales enablement. And their whole job is to liaison between sales and the rest of the company and outside of the company, getting the sales team everything they need to succeed. Like they don't look at they're not necessarily looking at coaching, because sales managers can coach them on their calls. They do like the email reviews. You're looking at operations. Like how can we get rid of admin? How can we free up salespeople to close and do the things that they do well at and get rid of all the other crap? And it sounds like you're kind of in a very specific area of sales enablement, which is that specific tool. How do we make it better for them? How do we help them? And that's really cool because not a lot of people can get that job right off the bat. So congrats on that, man. You must have really impressed them. It's not normal that folks get that. So that's really cool that you're able to get that role. So congrats, man. That's incredible. So you're able to, they made it like this special role. They kind of pulled you out of the regular hiring, and then they pulled you into this kind of special role. And so how are you liking that? You've been there for a while. What's it like?
Yeah, well, I'd say that's kind of one of the advantages of starting at a smaller company is that we're very much a startup. So the founders are involved in everything, which means when they caught me going through the interview process, they were able to make that call on the fly. They weren't just looking for SDR. They also had in mind all these other roles that the company was going to need. And it wasn't so much about filling a role so much as bringing in people with a certain expertise that they were looking for to help grow the company to the next level. So that's kind of the chaos and the beauty of startup life is ambiguity. I love it there. It's an amazing company. We're about 30 people now. We just hired about 7 people in the last week. And we're growing really fast. We're a completely remote company. Last time I checked, we're in 18 different cities in 9 different countries. So It was exactly the role that I was setting out to find, in terms of what kind of company profile I was looking for, remote. The salary was right in the range that I was looking for first year, and then with the exactly what I wanted to get to for second year and beyond as well. So it couldn't have worked out better. And it's not exactly an SDR role, but it's incredibly interesting work.
It is. You just bypassed, you've kind of taken a different route into the sales ops or enablement, which is very unusual, but it's really cool that you've done that. So it's fair to say that the program is worked out the way you wanted, or maybe even a little better then, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. And the advanced knowledge we get, especially about the tools, has been absolutely vital to what I do on a day-to-day basis. I need to be familiar with every single tool on the market. And that has been invaluable.
So, Ben, this has been incredible just hearing your story of how you've gone from what you're doing previously, working for yourself for so many years, wanting to get back into the business or corporate world, and then you're like, I want to be in tech. You found us, you did the program, you applied yourself, and then you got the top company that you wanted to work at, and then you got like a special position they kind of created for you because of your unique skill set and the things you've learned in our program. This has worked out for you really well. So what advice do you have for someone that's like, listen to your story, and you know what, they've been probably listening to other videos or watching me give away different trainings and different topics and emails. They've been watching or reading our emails, but right now they're still on the fence and they've not yet maybe gotten the courage together, or they just delayed or put off meeting with us to talk about whether or not we can help them or not. What would you say to someone that's still kind of on the fence about this whole thing? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, absolutely. If you resonated at all with anything that I was saying about possibly needing a bridge to get you from point A to point B, I would not hesitate to get on the phone and at least talk to your enrollment consultants about seeing if Prehired is the right bridge for you. The sooner you get started crossing that bridge, the sooner you're going to get to the other side. And I'm so happy I did. I'm absolutely thrilled with the result and thrilled with the program. I really couldn't be happier about it at all. And I would encourage you to at least hop on a phone call. It doesn't cost you anything except for maybe a half hour of your time, and see. And I think these guys are really upstanding characters. They're not going to lead you the wrong way. If they feel like it's not a great fit for you, they'll probably point you in the right direction. At least I certainly felt that way when they talked to me. They took the time to get to know who I was as a person and where I wanted to go. And then they helped me make that decision about providing me the bridge that I needed to get to where I want to go. And now I'm on the other side. So if you want to get to the other side and you feel like that's what you need to do it, hop on a call with them and see if it's a good fit.
Thanks, Ben. It's been great getting to hear your story, and thanks for sharing it with everyone else too.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. And best of luck to you all.